Hello, good morning. I'm going to be doing a tutorial on the Python debugger, which is the PDB module. So I'm going to show us how we can use the PDB module to debug codes and to find out where we have errors in our code and to resolve all the errors that we have in our code. So just like the code that we have on this interface, we can be able to detect where the code has any issue and all. So now from what we have here, we have two different functions inside this code. The first function is this, whereby we have the my numbers function. So this function is testing for integers, that is, it tests for the one that is less than, then greater than. So it's based on the values that I put here. Possibly I use maybe 2 as the x. So it will definitely execute print hello. So the second function is going to be calling this first function. That is any value we have here. That is the results coming from here. So we already passing the value for this first function here. So we are calling it inside this main function. So now we loop in through what we have here and then we print. But from what we have inside this code, I ensure to do something whereby this code, whenever it is run, is going to bring up an error. So I want to use the Python debugger to work around with this code. So now let's run this code first and let's see what it's giving us. So before we use the Python debugger on it. So now you can see it's giving us non-type object as attribute split. So let's use our Python debugger. First thing we do is we import PDB. And we have two ways for using the PDB. What I'm using here is Python 3.7. So if you're using something like 3.7 and above, for here I'm going to use the pdb.settrace. People that are using 3.7 and above can use the breakpoint, so you don't need to import PDB. So it comes directly with Python itself. So I'm going to put the pdb.trace here, .settrace inside here. So now I already defined the pdb.settrace here. So this is whereby we have the pdb.settrace. So let's run our code once again. So now we can see this is the PDB, that is where we put the pdb.settrace is where the code is going to stop. So you can see it has not execute for high invalid or split. So it hasn't execute that. So, and then we have three different functions that came with PDP. It's not just that, we have a lot of functions, but the three main ones that people make use of, we have the continue, we have the step, and we also have the continue, we have the step, and we also have the, I think it's the execute function. So yes, we also have the next command. So not execute, we have the next command. So we have the next step and the continue. So there are three that we can make use of. And then just in case we want to check, we can use the help function to check. Just type help inside the PDB library. It's going to show you. So you can see the continue, you can see the run, you can see the, let's check for the other one. Let's see the next is here, and we can see the step is over here. So I'm going to explain three of these. So let's go to the nest first. What the nest is doing is we can be able to move to each line of the code, that is next line of action. So possibly I have this if s is less than 9. So I can be able to move to the next line of execution. So before it takes me to the end of the code. Let's try to use next inside here. You can see it's bringing for high invalid or splits. So let me type next again. So the reason why it's stopping at this for high invalid or split is because that's exactly where we put our our code, and the reason is this code has an error. So that's why it's not going further than that. So for the step is also in what the step is also how we can step into different functions. So that is, it can print values that are inside those functions, that is the result. So let's try to use step over here. You can see the main, so it already moved to the main function. So this is just still the main. So to df, so just add that's just for step. So it's moving from one function to the other. And we also have the continue function. So under the continue is just how it can execute any code that is we have. So using the Python debugger trace, or how it can execute every place we have the Python debugger trace, that is going to execute those code. Let's use the continue. So the reason why this is the error the code is giving us from the start. So it is executing the code that was set as this pdb.setTrace. So in case I close this thing, if I have pdb.setTrace here, it's definitely going to execute that code for me as well. So let me try to set the pdb.setTrace inside this function too, so we can see what is going on. So, and again, from what we have here, so let's go back to so this has already cancelled. So it's because it's going to run the code till the next, that is to the next line of action till the end. So that's just what we just see. So PDB. So now what we have here is, can see if x is less than 9, because that's the where we set the pdb.setTrace. So what we were using earlier, we are going to use that again, which is the continue. So it's going to move to, so you can see it goes down to the next pdb.setTrace, so till the end. So if I try to put continue again, it's going to it's going to exit the pdb interface. So in case we want to exit, we can just type q, it's going to exit. So let's go back and see how we can move. So you can see I'm printing next. Let me print next again. So pdb.setTrace next. So, and again, just like I'm printing this next, I can as well print, okay, I want to see what is inside the value of x. Let me check again. For how invalid does split, okay, that should be print value, because I'm inside that particular function. So now, because I'm inside this main function, I can check what is inside this value. So let's go back to this first function. Let me type next again. So let's type next main. So let's use step. Let's just use continue. So it can go back to the first one. Let's run it again. So now I can type this x. So let's type next again. Print x. My give us value is not defined. Okay, you can see x. So we have 3. The reason why we have 3 is because we've already ran this main function code. So it knows what is inside that particular 3, because this is calling this. So that's why we have the 3 inside. So we can use it to print, we can check what is going on in our code. So just like when we have the set trace in the other second one. So let's use the continue once again. So let's move to the second function now. So if I try to type something like next, it's supposed to give me the error I'm trying to check. So I try to use next after I've moved inside this function. So after typing the next, this is whereby the pdb.setTrace was put. So, and I said for high in value does split. So this is where the error is. You can see non-type object has no attribute split. So it can't run the code. So let me just remove this value here. So because this is valid, this particular function is valid. So let's just print what this function is bringing alone. So we don't have to use anything with it. So let me exit this terminal first. So let's run it again. So now let's use continue, since we just want to see what is going to give us. So it will move to the next function. So we have the print value. So we have hello, which it has printed, that is x less than 9. So my number 3. So this is telling us like this hello was printed. So now let me print continue once again. You can see we have none because this has been printed already. That is, it has already run this particular code. That's why. So I hope we understand how to use the PDB library now. We can use it as much as possible to debug any code that we have. So, okay, sorry. I'm supposed to be inside the interface. So I can type the help again and I can see all these different. So the best thing is for us to know what each and of these commands are being used for. What we use majorly is all these step, continue. So even if the pdb.set here, sometimes we might not know where the error is in our code. As well as much as possible, we had the pdb.set trace at different instances. So as we are stepping through, or maybe we are using the continue function, we can be able to find out where that particular error is. So we can use this, you can use it to capture where the error exists in our code. So this is the end of this tutorial. Thanks for listening.